Welcome back to the official Young Hunger podcast. On this episode, sitting across from me is a key member of our team. Most of you may know him from behind the camera, but for the first time ever, we hear his story. I introduce to you Mr Ross Gargan.
Hello, my name is Ross Gargan, also known as Rossisreality, and I run a photography and videography business. And I'm also the man behind the camera here at the official Young Hunger podcast, and I can't wait to get into today's episode.
Tell you what it is, for people who don't know you, you're normally behind the camera.
Yes.
And now you're in front of the camera. So what sort of brought that on? What was the shift between coming on and feeling like, you know what, I'm going to do this?
I used to be in front of the camera quite a bit when I was younger.
Yeah.
So I'd say like starting off, what really got me into like doing all the content creations and videography and stuff was really kind of just putting myself in front of the camera and being a bit comedic at times, you know what I mean? Like I loved entertaining people when I was younger. The way I kind of started into it, I guess it was like through gaming videos, to be honest. So I'd done that. And
when did you start? You started back when you were young.
I still remember, I think it must have been like, I don't even know the dates on one of the old YouTube channels I have. I think it was like 2007 or 9 or something. It could have been when I had it first upload. Yeah. But I couldn't tell you the exact date, but if I had my phone, I'd know. Yeah. But it was well over, I'd say 10 years ago. And it was mad to think because it's all kind of spiraled from it, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I'd say the main thing that got me in front of the camera was like I used to do a lot of work with the Princess Trust. So I was the ambassador for them for a few years. Well, I'd say a year and a half.
I remember you doing like, before we knew you, you did like a talk and like a speech and stuff, didn't you?
Yes, 100%. So
what was that on? Was it mental health?
Yes, will be mental health based, So I'd say when I first got into the Princess Trust, we've done this program called the Team Program. Yeah. It's like a 12-week kind of course where they help you kind of build your social skills and get ready for work. Basically, you create a CV and things like that. So I'd done that, and then straight from the back got my first job off of it, and kind of just kept snowballing from there. Yeah. And I stayed in touch with them. So I think I was still making maybe videos at the time, kind of speaking about my mental health, my well-being and all, and they kind of seen them. Yeah. And we're like, you know what? We kind of want to take this guy a bit further and see if we can do some public speaking. Yeah. So they trained me up for public speaking, I think about over 2 days. And then before you know, I was kind of speaking in front of like, I'd say about maybe 100 to 150 potential investors and investors at the Princess Trust.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, so it was a mad one to kind of get into.
Yeah, the funny story is, I was saying with Johnny the other day, he was like, how we actually met.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Oh, yes, I do remember that. That one was a unique story, to say the least. Like,
so for anyone who doesn't know, we've known each other since like, what, 2019?
I'd say so, I'd say 2019.
Yeah, through like a mutual friend. What sort of happened?
Well, that night, that was something different. All right, I was definitely a different person back then. I'd say that, you know what I mean? Oh, no, 100%. Yeah. I'd say I was quite fond of the drinking most weekends and just kind of getting out and partying, you know what I mean? But no, changed since then. But I'd say how we first met. So, one of your best mates, Sam. Yeah. So
shout out to Sam Duncan.
Yes, 100%. Big Sam, big up. So we were kind of had a little friend group. We used to work at We Are Vertigo. Yeah. And we all kind of came pretty close together. And there was Sam and a few others and we kind of just went out, I think for like, maybe it was like a work kind of do or something like that, or maybe just went out for the crack, I can't remember. Yeah. But basically I remember we were at the bar or something, waiting for a drink, and back then I would have been drinking the rum. So I just remember I was sitting there waiting, what was it? I can't remember. I think did we order a drink together? Did you get me a drink? I can't even remember. Something like that. But I remember I got it was like a double rum and coke or something. And by the time you turned around and had your drink in your hand, I nearly had it finished. And I just remember you just looking at me like, wait, what? And I was just sitting there like, quite like my rum and coke. You know what I mean? But I think since then, I just kind of have a few pints every now and then, but nothing major. You know what I mean?
Looking back, I always laughed at because I was like, that was, without even knowing, I was like, this guy's so dead on.
No, I appreciate it.
But later on, that was like maybe a wee bit before we like properly were working together. But if you fast forward to like, is it April 20? So that was 2019. If you fast forward to April 2021, I actually said to Sam, I was like, look, I want to try to do this idea of like interviewing people and stuff. Yes. And I was looking on the hunt for like a videographer, and then he was saying about yourself. So I remember sort of getting in touch with you and stuff. Yeah. What was that sort of like? Because obviously, like, none of us really knew what we were doing or
100%
about Young Hunger. But what was that like? What were you sort of thinking whenever I approached you with the idea of Young Hunger?
Yeah, so like I'd say from the get-go, I guess like micro-analyzed the idea, if that makes sense. So I kind of dissected it and was like, you know what, like the way you described it to me, I kind of visualized already. Yeah. So like you gave me enough information to give these kind of pictures in my head, and I kind of just thought to myself like, there's real potential here, you know what I mean? Like I haven't really seen many people, I haven't really seen any young people from Northern Ireland, I'd say, you know, going out and searching for people who are successful and hungry for success, you know what I mean? Yeah. And the fact that like you're putting it into a podcast, or we're putting it into a podcast, and you know, other people of all ages are able to learn from it and dissect like all the information that's given out. I think it's incredible. Yeah. So I think like the first idea that I had in my mind was like, how can I make this possible? You know what I mean? Like you've given me the idea, and I'm like, I kind of want to just try and make this a realization for you, if that makes sense, or a reality for you, you know?
Because I remember after the Chris Sutter, I think, podcast, it was like our second episode, I remember finishing it. Yeah. And I remember you messaging me being like, you know what, this could work. Like, 100%. This idea is actually working nearly, if you know what I mean. It was really like, the first one or two weren't really sure what to expect or what to do. I think maybe it was like a realization after the second one, was like, here, we could make something out of this.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because I think back then I was majorly focused on photography too. Yeah. So I didn't have like a massive, I'd say, portfolio of video work, you know. Yeah. So it was kind of going outside my comfort zone too, which like I thank you for doing that for me, you know what I mean? I
know,
like,
I think the team works.
Mad, I think.
The team works well together.
Yeah, like all the ideas we merged together is crazy. You know what I mean?
Your camera skills, or nearly every guest we've had, always comments on you saying like how good sort of everything is. How did you get into that? Because like it's pretty niche, hard sort of thing, or.
It was it is a weird one to think about, and it goes back to YouTube, mate. Like honestly, that's where everything I think stemmed from, and like it's kind of mad because I think like I got a bit of stink for it when I was in school, not an awful lot. Like I think I had more praise and stink because people just kind of see me doing my own thing, and they realize that whatever people say to me, it's not going to bother me. You know what I mean? Like whatever kind of comments come out, I just shrugged it off and just like, you know what, I'm doing me, I'm enjoying it. If I make one person smile, that's all that matters. Yeah. But as I said, like I kind of just kept making videos, and as I said earlier, like I was making gaming videos back then, so I used to be very, very badly like obsessed and addicted to video games. And I just realized I was getting unhealthy, the habits I had. So I kind of wanted to dissect my content, going from video to more kind of vlog type videos. Yeah. So I ended up getting a camera, I think when I was in GCSEs, was it GCSEs for school? My excuse was to get it to do my like moving images project, and I had no clue about light, no clue about cameras, just kind of slapped it up, had it in auto, and just shot and hope for the best. I made the film, had no good backstory to it. Yeah. The way I described it was like a horror / a comedy, so like it was just, or a thriller / comedy, it was something like that. It was horrible.
What sort of, you're all self-taught though, weren't you?
More or less, yeah. So like I went, what was it? So I'd say I'd moving image arts for GCSE. I learned a bit about cameras, mise-en-scène, like everything that kind of goes into making a film basically. And then I took time out, kind of dropped out after A-levels. Didn't do A-levels, dropped out during A-levels, and kind of took a year out on the Prince's Trust and went back to tech for a year. But it was a 2-year course, and I just didn't enjoy it. Like I can't sit there and listen to lectures. It doesn't do anything for me. Yeah. And the thing is with tech, like you maybe have like 4, maybe 2 or 3 projects a year, and the rest of it you're sitting in class learning from like a whiteboard. Yeah. And I can't do that. You know what I mean? Like I have to be hands-on 24/7 to actually learn what I'm doing. Yeah. So I think from that, like I guess I kind of just taught myself little bits and bobs. Like if there's something I felt I was struggling with within my camera work, I would dissect it basically and go on YouTube more or less and just look it all up and learn from it, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like I remember so well, I think 2019 was when I really had like the vision of taking it to like another level.
The thing with me and Johnny sort of, whenever we were, first of all, back in like April 21, we were talking to you, I think the thing that struck out to me the most was like just how like genuine you are. You know what I mean? We could tell you, we've told you so many ideas and you're like, yeah. And if the idea isn't maybe that great, you're like, yeah. You know, you don't just shut it down, and like we absolutely hate like fakeness and stuff.
Yes, 100%.
And then whenever we were speaking to you, we're like, this guy's like legit. If that makes sense. So that's what sort of brought us, I think, to you, and we're thinking we need this guy on the team.
No, definitely. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
It's been mad. Like it's been mad.
And it's been a weird journey, hasn't it? It's been like 18, I think we've done now.
Yeah. Like, and to think of like everything we've learned from it too is mental.
Together. Well, like you're there at every podcast, and you're there behind the camera getting all the shots. What's been your sort of biggest takeaway from like any guest? Because you're there hearing everything. Yeah. What sticks out to you?
I'd say what sticks out to me the most is probably it's not what you know, it's who you know. Yeah. And then it's a thing of not letting anyone kind of bring you down as well. You know what I mean? Like I think the biggest takeaway I'd say is like nearly everyone we've interviewed, they're not almost like connected in some way. And I don't mean like from like their mindset. I mean from like physically they would probably know each other from a mutual friend, or they physically know each other. Yeah. And I think that's a crazy thing because like at the end of the day, Northern Ireland is quite a small place too. So like everyone more or less knows each other. And the fact is like, there's something I seen recently. It's like As I said, yeah, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So like if you wanted to get into a new job or something and you were just sending off your CV, like you'd have such a bigger chance of getting in there if you knew someone that worked there.
Yeah.
I think that's a similar thing with like the people we have on the podcast too. Like we can get like a lot of, I guess, people that we're interested in interviewing from, I guess, a recommendation from someone else.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of just shows the piece, like the way you piece the puzzle together. And just, I don't know, it's a beautiful process, but it's mad to think about.
Interesting thing about you and me is, like, we're so similar, but at the same time, this is what maybe people don't know, we're so different.
Yeah.
It's like in the morning, like I feel like that's my like go time. And I remember you saying like your evenings like the best time for you.
Yeah.
Have you got any like wee hacks or anything you can tell the like entrepreneurs of like productivity tips? Because your work ethic is like mad. You know what I mean?
I appreciate it. I'd say like the biggest kind of work hack is honestly the balance. And like a lot of people talk about balance and say like it's tough to get it throughout your life and stuff, but I'd say if you focus on that the earliest you can, you'll achieve so much more. Like for me, like even as you just mentioned there, like my productivity time is usually at a peak during the evening and night.
Yeah.
But to be honest, like I've kind of flipped that recently. You know what I mean? Like I've been getting up earlier, I'd say the past month or so. I'm just trying to get all my workload done in the morning so that, you know, I still have a bit of daylight outside to go outside and enjoy it. And then if I have to catch up on things whenever the day goes back to, whenever the sun goes down, I can get back to work, you know what I mean? So like it's little things like that, but I'd say my biggest kind of productivity tip is literally plan out your day. Like that's the biggest thing I think it is. Like the way I kind of like to work is before I go to bed, I have like a rough idea of what I'm going to do in the morning. And then before I go to sleep, I'll kind of just put myself in the present and just kind of relax myself without thinking of what I'm going to do. Because that way I'll just stay up and stay wired throughout the entire night. Yeah. And then once I wake up in the morning again, I kind of just meditate slightly and then refresh my brain about being what I'm going to do today. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'll think of the little things and just, I guess it's the small wins that count. Yeah. So you want to like plan out your day in ways that you'll achieve one thing that will continue to let you achieve the next. And that's the way I like to work.
You sort of touched on it there, but I love asking this question because people find out so much more about you.
Yes.
But if you could, what does a day in the life of Ross Gargan look like? What's your sort of like get up to go to bed? Like what's your go-to?
It would probably be different every day. Like I just kind of set out what I want to achieve throughout that day and how I'm going to do it, but like while still setting aside time for food. That's how it kind of works. And then like even with my like bedtime and stuff, you know, I don't think I've went to bed at like a specific time for the past year. You know what I mean? Like I'll try and go to bed before 12. That's my only kind of goal at the minute. And then that's really it. What I like to do when I wake up in the morning though is kind of just refresh my mind and kind of do a bit of reading as well. So I've been trying to do that a little bit more.
What's your go-to book?
Go-to book? See, I'm still working my way through Think and Grow Rich. It's one I'm kind of dissecting each chapter. It's a bit of a mad one. Like there's so much going on in it, but there's so much to take away.
Yeah. Is there anything that sort of sticks out to you as if like, whoa, like this book sort of...
I'd say like the one thing that kind of sticks out to me is how much they emphasize self-belief in it. You know what I mean? Because like a lot of people kind of just look at self-belief and just be like, oh yeah, I believe in myself.
Yeah, yeah.
But like you have to have your confidence on another level to actually kind of proceed with what you want to do in life. You know what I mean? Like it's mad. Like I'm reading, what is it Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I think it is at the minute. No, it's a brilliant book. Like I think I started that like last week or something, nearly done it now, but the amount of stuff I've learned from that too is mad. Like even I think he describes how like every single person in their life kind of suffers from a little bit of disbelief. You know what I mean? And it depends on the person whether that holds you back or not. Yeah. So like if you're going to kind of, I don't know, not wanting to prove it, then that's where your downfall might be, you know.
You sort of touched on it there, but how would you sort of, if you're editing all the time, you're maybe on your own a wee bit, and maybe sometimes like if someone's on their own, because I feel it sometimes you can get caught in your own thoughts. Yeah. And sometimes it's not always good thoughts. Is there any sort of tips you have for sort of handling self-doubt? Or you're saying about self-belief? Yeah. You know, it's hard to be like that all the time. Exactly. Is there anything you do sort of?
Well, I'd say for me, the main thing is if you know you're kind of going to be on your own, if you're going to be on your own a lot, I'd say you kind of need to have a productive set of activities to do throughout the day. You know, it's like the first thing for me, it's all about your self-talk from when you get up and when you go to bed. Yeah. So say like if I wake up in the morning, I feel I'm a little bit drowsy or something, or I'm feeling a little bit down, I'm like, oh, what am I doing today? Like I'll literally just stand up. Like it happened to me there when I was in Fermanagh there this week, and I kind of woke up and I was just sitting there like, what am I doing at the minute? Like, and then it just took me a second. I'm like, why am I thinking like this? You know what I mean? I went down and I kind of just stood, looked into the trees, got hit by the fresh air, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah. Just drop that kind of train of thought right now and just start thinking about, you know, you've done so well. You're very productive at the minute. You're getting as much done as you can. Yeah. And that's the main thing. Like everyone is in a different chapter in their life. And the main thing is just to focus on your own and try and emphasize how much you're actually doing rather than how much you're not. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I feel like a lot of people will sit back and be like, oh, I need to be doing more. I need to be doing this. I need to be doing that. But like...
I like nearly talking yourself.
Exactly. You know what I mean?
Down, yeah.
Exactly. Because then if you don't do it, you're just going to talk yourself down even more. Yeah. But I think for me when I'm editing, like I am on my own quite a lot And like sometimes it can be maybe like I'll be working all day just in my room, just chilling. But the main thing for me is to make sure I get outside, get a bit of fresh air, just get the sun hitting my face if there is any, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that's the most important thing. But even like breath work as well has been mad for me, to be honest. And then a bit of meditating.
Where did you learn that? Where did you learn that from? Was that was that like Kieran May or was that Happy Fest or anything? Or
they emphasise that a lot at Happy Fest, to be fair. But I think that's what intrigued me more to them, because that's what I've been kind of kind of passionate about, but like I enjoy kind of understanding how that all works. Yeah, you know what I mean.
You and me sort of are on the same wavelength that time, because like after we go to like Happy Fest, or because we go to all the different Think Network events, and anywhere that in Northern Ireland has something going on, we're more or less going.
100%.
And I feel like you and me sort of like can like gel and understand that type of thing when we go together. But we're always talking about it afterwards. It's always funny because we're always like, oh, what we learned there and what we learned there.
That's brilliant.
Because you're on your own so much and stuff, and maybe we're not doing this filming every day, what do you enjoy most about your job? Because it's such a fascinating thing. Because what age are you? You're like 20?
22, yeah.
So you're 22, you run your own business, and you have your own clients. You've built that from the ground up. What's your most important, your most enjoyable thing about what you do?
I'd say for me, like the first thing that pops in my head is like sending the final project over to someone, or like sending the final the final project over to someone, or the final product is the way I should word it. I think that's the most exciting thing, because then you can kind of get the feedback, and then like if you're doing it kind of like just seeing a text come back saying, oh, this looks class or this looks amazing, like that's the most fulfillment I'll get from my job, you know what I mean? Yeah. But then I also just, the people I meet as well is just incredible. And I think even like from working on these podcasts, you know, you learn so much from it too. Like even like, cause I'm sitting there filming it firstly, but then when it comes to the editing process, that's when I really get to tune into the content that's being said. And then you just dissect and learn so much from that too. Yeah, because you're nearly like, you're listening to it and you're re-listening to it. Exactly. You nearly, that's what I always find, because I always said to you, Flip, even after speaking to someone, you always hear bits that you might have missed, you know, from a podcast. Yeah. Because like you sort of, you're thinking that much ahead of what you're saying and stuff. So I always find that sort of absolutely fascinating. But if someone was to come up to you, right, and said, in your own opinion, what's the most important personality trait or strength that someone will need to become successful, do you think? I'd say it's honestly being quite chatty, you know what I mean? Being quite bubbly is one of the biggest things, I think. And for me personally, it's something I don't have much of, you know what I mean? Like I have really bad social anxiety. So say if it comes, like if I'm speaking one-on-one with someone, or maybe like if there's 2-3 of us max, like I'd say I can speak, no worries, you know what I mean? But once I go into like a networking event or a room full of people, that's when I'm kind of sitting like, oh Flip, right, I see everyone's here chatting, who's gonna go and kind of they just have a wee chatter with or something like that. Yeah, because I remember you saying that one of the Think Network events, like, oh, I might need like a beer or something, or like, you know, some sort of drink, because that's actually like that's like a nearly something people nearly run to, you know, grab some like the drink for like to talk more. But I couldn't believe it. I was like, you didn't, and you went out. I think it was like Kim Calvert. You went up to speak to. Yes, that was it. And you were sober. I was like, yes. Yeah, it was mad. I was like, go on. So I remember it was like a month or two previously that I was getting big into Bob Proctor, so I was like listening to a lot of his seminars and stuff, and then out of nowhere, like I didn't realize she was going to be there, and I just realized I was like, Flip, that's a bit weird. So I'm just going to go up and chat there and just see what the crack is. Yeah, like that was such a big thing, because I remember thinking like that's like self-development. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, 100%. You push yourself nearly out of your comfort zone that wee bit. Yeah. And it paid off. Definitely. How did you develop that? Was that just something that you needed to it's something you just need to work on constantly, because I feel like once you kind of get to like, you can never really get to a certain level of confidence, I feel, you know what I mean? Like you'll always kind of feel like you're at your peak, and then maybe next week your confidence will shoot back down, you know what I mean? So it's something, you can try and keep it balanced, but for me, I just try and self-talk is honestly the biggest way for it. Yeah. But I'd say years ago, like when I was about 17, I hit a mad low, and like I was like, I don't know how I'm getting back from this. You know what I mean? Like I've hit other lows in the past, but this one, just I don't know what's going on here. What was sort of different, or what was I think just school, like the environment I was in, I just couldn't hack it, and I never had the ambition to get A-levels or to do well in education. Like I never wanted to go to university. You know, I told my parents that from the get-go. Yeah. So then I was like, you know what, I just need to drop out. I just need to kind of put this all on pause and just focus on my mental health. Yeah. How did you get out of that? So I wasn't doing well in my A-levels, and it was one thing I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere being in school, you know what I mean? So I was like, I just need to drop out. Like I was doing YouTube on and off at the time too. So I knew in my head I kind of wanted to do content creation a bit further, but it was all blinded by school, I guess, and being in this kind of dark mentality, you know? So I dropped out, then went straight into kind of, I guess, just therapy, you know what I mean? Started doing like CBT and loads of different things. So I kind of just dealt with all that, processed it, and then was like, right, you know what, I'm starting to feel a little bit better now. You know, like my therapy sessions were going well, everything was picking up. Yeah. And then I went and done the Princess Trust course I touched on earlier. Came back out of that, and I just felt much more, I guess, like relived, if that makes sense. I just kind of felt like a fire was burning inside of me.
Yeah.
And then from there, I kind of just kept going, you know what I mean? And my confidence kept going up and down, but obviously you have them kind of pits where it goes up and down too.
Yeah.
And that's just life, you know what I mean?
What does your family say about what you do? Because I remember you saying before, you come from like a bloodline of like tradies.
Yeah.
And this is someone completely different.
100%.
Anyone else in your family does. What way, do you ever feel like a pressure that way to try to...
Oh no, yeah, definitely. Like I felt the pressure, I'd say, from a young age, you know what I mean? Like I always kind of wanted to impress my dad, impress my mouth, my results from exams in school and stuff.
Yeah.
But then just kind of, I don't know, it got to a point where I just didn't really care anymore. You know what I mean? I guess the way I would word it is I was apathetic. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do what I want to do. Like it wasn't a good mindset at the time, but as I got better and better, I realized that was quite a powerful moment to have. You know, even though I was kind of like seeing the silver lining in every cloud, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was like looking at the dark times and picking out the good things from it. The biggest thing for me was I just didn't care. You know what I mean? But I cared enough about what I wanted to do, if that made sense.
I remember you saying before that you really wanted to like prove yourself, because you moved out and stuff. And then I remember you saying how you wanted to prove yourself like to your family and stuff.
100%.
Some friends be like, look, I'm making a business out of this. I'm living on my own and I can actually sustain myself.
Definitely.
That's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's something I just always had in the back of my head. It's like, I didn't feel hungry. Like I don't feel hungry for money or anything, you know what I mean? Like that's not my kind of like end goal is to make a mad amount of money. It's more or less to kind of, I guess, inspire a mad amount of people. You know what I mean? So like at the end of the day, like what I'm doing now is kind of just putting me on my feet. It's like laying the foundations. So like I was making enough to live off it, you know what I mean? So I was able to move out there. I think it's our last month of being in the house now, I think next month. So we'll be out of that and then we'll be back at the parents' house. But as you said, like it's kind of just proven to them that, you know what, like I can actually make an income off this and I can do what I actually love doing and just take it to another level.
How's that feeling whenever like you do that?
Yeah,
I mean, like you said it, and now you're doing it.
It feels mad, but like it's almost something like, you can't really describe the feeling almost because it as I said, like you'll wake up one day, you'll feel, oh, I've done so much, it's brilliant. You wake up the next, you're like, I'm getting nowhere. You know what I mean? Like it's these two kind of sides to your head are always fighting and always chatting the whole load of shite, you know what I mean? For the friends, like, but it's the truest way to put it.
Yeah, because I didn't want to tell you any questions.
Yes.
Because I wanted sort of a genuine response. But the other thing I was going to say, you were saying about your dark times and like when you were like 17 and stuff. Looking at you now, if you could meet, if the 17-year-old version came into this room and sat opposite you, looking at this 22-year-old successful business owner who made it on his own, what would you say to him?
Jeez, I don't even know. I'd say I'm just glad he kept kicking. You know what I mean? That's the biggest thing I'd say.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing I'd say, honestly. The main thing. Because like I just don't know. I think when I was younger, I just didn't really see a future of anything. You know what I mean? I just kind of kept ticking on, just taking it day by day, and just everything was kind of survival mode back then.
Yeah.
But then,
and now look, you know what I mean? You're
just
like
looking now,
yeah.
It's mad to think. Like it's mad to think. Like it's so far from them days that like you almost didn't think they happened. If that makes sense, you know what I mean? Like everything's changed so dramatically.
Like a different guy, nearly.
Exactly, mate. Exactly.
Same guy, different mindset.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
What about if you contrary to that? If the 27-year-old you came into the room, what would you want him to look like? What would you where would you want to be in 5 years?
Be in 5 years, honestly, I'd love to kind of just, like it's the biggest thing for everyone, but I'd say in 5 years, I'd probably be financially stable. That'd be the biggest thing. So I'd say for like this past year, it's more or less just been a learning curve of getting into business. Like I know what I'm weak on, I know where my strengths lie. So I know like, I don't really need to invest much more money into my camera equipment at the minute because that's all kind of at a position where I'm happy with. Yeah. Whilst I need to invest more money, or not money, but more time into, I guess, like my sales pitches and being me as a salesperson. You know what I mean? Like my marketing skills were there all right, but I feel like in 5 years' time, I want to kind of just be very, very happy with the position I'm in, whether that's like my skills within sales, my skills within my camera work, or my skills within, I guess, just being a people person. You know what I mean? That's the biggest thing.
Any particular goal? Anything you want to be like, I want that guy to achieve that?
Any goal? Well, I'd say like I would love to be doing public speaking again. That's one of the biggest things I'd say.
I've heard you. I think you're good.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It means a lot.
You know what I mean? I feel like, you know, this guy, like from where you were, it's just different guy.
100%. That's mad. No, I appreciate that.
No.
But I'd say, public speaking, I'd love to see myself doing, and I guess kind of, it'd be a tough goal, but I'd say making 6 figures a year would be incredible. I'd say it's definitely something I'll be able to achieve, you know.
Is there maybe anyone you look up to, or is anyone you sort of think to yourself, wow, like...
Look up to, I'd say my biggest inspirations to the day is my parents, honestly. Yeah, I'd say. Like I'd look at a lot of people and be like, I take little bits and pieces from everyone. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't say there's someone I like solely look up to or like take everything from. So I kind of like seeing different perspectives in life and seeing how everyone else treats it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'd say for my parents, like my dad works flat to the mat. You know what I mean? And see with my mum, like they both are mad hard workers.
Yeah.
And I think that's really where I take a lot of my kind of graphs from and inspiration from. And like even with my dad, like if he has a day off in the past, like he'd still find something else to do. See with my mum, you know what I mean? Like they're both like that. They can't sit and rest all the time. You know what I mean?
That's a bit like you too, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
it kind of is like that. They're always like feeling the urge to kind of do something, which is kind of like it's good in its own way, but can be a bit detrimental at times. But the thing is, like once we're kind of drained, we will sit and just rest. You know what I mean? Like we'll take time off and go to like the likes of Fermanagh or something, just kind of let the heads rest, and that's the peak of it. Like
I remember you saying before, you were telling you told your dad what you did or something for the first time, or was there something like that? Remember you saying how that was such a big thing? Like you're proud to say
yes.
You do videography, like that is what you do.
100%. I think like one of the proudest moments I've had recently is I what was it? I was doing all my taxes there recently. And I hadn't never done tax in my life before. I didn't know how it worked. I was always daunted with the idea of it, and had like this other mindset. I think it was like if I didn't make over like 12 grand or something, I didn't have to put them through or something. That was in my head. But then I was like, shit, wait, kind of missed the past 2 years here. I need to start putting everything through because that's not how it works.
Yeah.
So then I ended up putting it all through, and I think I looked at like last year's earnings or something. I was just like, wow, like it really took me back for a minute. Yeah. And then I was just talking to my dad about it, and he was like, you know what? Fair enough. He kind of just sat there. He's like, oh, okay. Like he didn't say too much. Didn't really say anything. But I kind of just got from like the wee gestures of him. He's like, all right, you know what? Something's happening here. There's something going on.
And that's you doing your stuff.
Yeah,
stuff that you've created.
It's mad to think. Like, on the back of my head, there's always that idea of going back into a 9 to 5. Yeah. And I think the only reason in my head now is to go back to like another job, not necessarily a 9 to 5, but another job that isn't mine, is basically to learn. You know what I mean? Like for me, the one thing I would struggle with a lot is like talking to people. Yeah. You know, like I think, like as I said previously, being in a room with a lot of people, that's where I'll struggle the most. But if I'm working like one-to-one with people or like there's a little group of us, it's fine. Like I can just kind of chat away and not even think about it. Yeah. It's more so if I think about it, I'm going to panic about going into this situation, that's where it happens. Yeah. But sometimes I just go with a clear mind and that's it. But I think the one thing that I always take away from working elsewhere is just talking to people non-stop. You know what I mean? Because like when I'm editing a lot, I'm not chatting to a lot of people. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's the only difference really.
What else have you done? Like other than the videography stuff, what sort of other jobs have you sort of...
I'd say, so we started off, first job was when We Are Vertigo as like a trampoline marshal, which is quite funny. I think I lasted there maybe like 11, 12 months. And then what did I do after that? I think I went and worked with my dad a little bit, not much, but like every now and then if he had a job he needed a hand with, I would go and help him out. Wasn't the best plumber in the world, but I learned how to put up a radiator, but I think it had a few leaks, like, so that's where I kind of drew the line at that one, But
I feel like if you didn't do the We Are Vertigo, probably would never have.
That's true.
We probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny how stuff like that works out.
I know, you always have to see like the beauty and the kind of things you may not have enjoyed. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because you might have not went that day. Yeah. To like the night out.
Exactly.
I might not have went. Might not have talked.
It's mad. It's mad to think how it all works. You know what I mean? How it all comes together. Like simple things. Like a lot of things do have a meaning to it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think it's mad to think like.
Yeah. And here we are.
Here we are. Soaring.
I know. What about like I think you touched on earlier with Kieran May. Yeah. That was such a big, powerful podcast to us because we're nearly like blew our heads away from what he was saying. Yeah. Because I feel like you and me really resonated well with him. But I actually had something written down here from his podcast. He was saying, do what sets your soul on fire.
Yes.
And that sort of resonated with me because this sort of podcast, it doesn't matter about like money or views or likes or anything like that because I feel like I would be doing this I am doing this for the genuine love of it. Yeah. I feel like we both are. But what 100%. What sets your soul on fire?
I think it's honestly like making people happy almost. Like I know in the past I've been a big people pleaser, and over the past few years being able to kind of calm that down. Yeah. But I'd say like honestly it's just what sets my soul on fire is being able to see other people do well. You know what I mean? Like I've chatted to people like family, friends and everything, and like if they're in a dark space or I'm in a dark space, like we'll chat to each other and go through it with each other. Yeah. And then kind of just give little bits of advice to try and do something that might make you feel a bit better. Yeah. And like whenever I kind of give a bit of advice to someone and get like kind of good feedback from it, that's honestly what kind of sets my soul on fire as well. Yeah. But then the biggest thing for me, as I said earlier, is like kind of shooting as well, and then putting everything together and sending off the final piece, and then getting feedback from that, even if it's good or bad, like it doesn't matter. But that still kind of sets my soul on fire because if it's bad, there's something I can take away from it and learn from it, and if it's good, then like I guess you're happy with it.
This is our number one question that we ask on every podcast. Yeah. But I wanted to ask you this: if a young man or woman came up to you and asked you for advice, if they were looking to follow maybe in your own footsteps or in anything, What would you say? What's your best piece of advice?
It's the best piece of advice. That's a good question now.
What's your you know, if you were thinking to yourself like this is something.
I'd say honestly, for me, my biggest thing is putting people's dreams or my dreams into reality.
Wow.
And I'd say the one way that you can focus on doing that is by literally just chasing what it is you love.
Yeah.
Now, I know I've chatted with my cousin about this and he's like, how do you find your passion? How do you find this and that? Honestly, just keep experiencing things, you know what I mean? It's kind of like if you want to learn a martial art and you don't know which one to start off with first, you'll go try Taekwondo, you'll go try Karate, you'll go try Muay Thai, you know what I mean? Like you'll go try everything until that one kind of thing resonates with you.
Yeah.
And once you find that one thing resonating with you, just keep at it, you know what I mean? And even if it gets tough, just keep fighting through it. And then maybe whenever you've got through that tough stage, you'll look back and be like, wow, this is actually something that's kind of, you know, burning my desires, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's getting everything going. And I think the main thing again is just self-belief is one of the biggest things, you know, being confident within your craft, you know what I mean? Like no one kind of wants to, let's say, there's a salesperson and they're trying to sell you some sort of course, but like they're just kind of giving you the list, the rundown of the description of the course. You know, they're not kind of being enthusiastic or they're not confident about what they're selling to you. Like you're not going to buy that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's being confident within what you're doing and what you want to achieve and just keep chasing after it. And even if you don't know what you want to achieve, just keep doing what you kind of feel like is right. And if it doesn't feel right as well, then maybe try something different. And then, but always just keep trying new things and just keep getting yourself out of your comfort zone is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And you'll just see growth within yourself like tremendously.
Yeah. Have you got any questions for me? Because I feel like asking you all these questions. And this is your first podcast, isn't it? How do you sort of feel being on the other end?
It's mad to be honest. Like I kind of find it funny, but I was mad excited for it too. You know what I mean? Because like for the past while, I think I've been telling you I kind of want to make my own content again. Yeah. And I feel like this is like a first step, getting in front of the cameras again to kind of start building that up. You know. So I think that's the biggest thing. But I'd say one of my questions for you, is what podcast or what has been like your most kind of nerve-wracking experience throughout the entire journey?
Probably the most nervous / scariest thing was, see if you go back to the very, very, very beginning. Yeah. With when we were shooting with At Us Now, Cattle Heart, we were sort of doing a wee intro in the street. Do you remember that?
I remember
across
that. Across
the street. Yeah. And I had like half a page of like what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
And then whenever I actually didn't like know how hard it was going to be because there were so many people, like the street was like full of people. Yeah. Right? And people were walking up and down and you were sort of like, yeah, go ahead. And I was like, I just can't do it.
I know, the words just wouldn't come out like.
It was the hardest thing. I really like just couldn't get the rhythm. Yeah. And that always stuck with me, being like, you know, like this is something that if we want to do this is something that has to be done, essentially. Exactly. So I remember thinking to myself, this is, because it must have took about 20 times. And I actually apologise.
Not at all. Because
of how long that took. But I think that was probably my hardest moment, I would say. There was a couple of other wee bits and stuff, but like, as you say, I think it's like the self-belief.
Yes, 100%.
And the self-doubt type thing of molding him, because I feel like that's the biggest takeaway that you and me have learned. Yeah. Even just from doing these, but like going to the events, I think that's such a big thing, like networking and like talking to people. I know that we talk about this a lot, but the likes of like Gary Doherty's a big help, and Kieran, and there's so many people who've helped us. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%.
And I feel like when we go to those events, you can resonate with people. Yeah. And you can like, you might have an insecurity and they might have something, and then like you sort of resonate with each other and you all learn from that. Exactly. But that's what I would say. What about yourself? What would sort of be the...
I'd say most nerve-wracking one, I don't even know. Like it's tough to think.
Yeah.
Like I always go with quite a clear mindset about it, but...
Or even like your first... What was your first gig like? What was your first...
first ever work with the podcast?
Even maybe...
Or in general?
Probably before that, like if you were like...
Jeez. For me, it's like a bit of a blur. You know what I mean? Like so much has happened over the past few years and it's kind of like...
Was that a scary thing, going out?
It was definitely scary, to be honest. And I think I was more excited back then because... I'd say my first ever gig, I wasn't paid for a long time. So like I'd say the first thing that really resonated was that it's more like school kind of thing. You know what I mean? But it's like a practical school, so I was excited to go out and do it. Yeah. I learned a lot. Like I was on like films and stuff, so I would do like behind the scenes, taking pictures and stills on set, basically.
I remember you saying that before. It was like you nearly, I think when we were doing Cahill, our first podcast, you had to do so much work, like free work. Like you had to go and do so many shoots and all this here and all this editing before you even got paid a penny. Yeah. Do you feel like that's a big thing? Did that help you?
Definitely did help me, and I think like I learned so much from it. You know what I mean? Because back then it wasn't like I was just working for nothing. You know what I mean? I'm working and learning at the same time. Like I was working with a lot of professionals, so I was like looking at their techniques of lighting, looking at their techniques and how they direct people, and loads of these little other things, like all the things that you wouldn't see on the TV screen. But it kind of makes you a bit of a perfectionist too at the end of the day, because you're learning all these techniques and then you implement them into your own thing. Like, it was even before we set it up here, there's a slight reflection or something we see in the window, like, you know what I mean? I'm like, right, I want to get rid of that. But the biggest downfall, I think, for working for free is like, where do you draw the line of where do you not get paid for it? You know what I mean? And I think that's where a lot of creatives and I guess people in general who work for free struggle with, because they're like, right, I kind of want to make an income from it now. I need to get sustainable with it. But where do I draw that line? You know what I mean? You might have people that you've done previous work for continuously. It's like, well, if I tell them I'm going to start charging, will they pay or will they just disappear? Well, all my workflow kind of disappear. Like, what's going to happen?
Does that come naturally, or is that something you have, as you say, has to be like a boom?
I think it has to be almost a boom thing. Like, I feel like a lot of people kind of like tread it in a wee bit, which you can do as well, which works. It's probably a more gentle way to do it, but for me, I kind of just went, you know what, full blast. So it's like, right, no more. Yeah, literally, mate, I was like, no more free shoots, just straight to the bat. I need to start getting paid for this. Yeah. I started working my way up, but then you'll realize your workflow kind of disappears at that point. I think I definitely didn't do it in the best way I could have done it. Yeah. But I'm sitting here now and I'm still working with it, so something's clearly worked. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well,
I think a lot of people, what they maybe don't know about you is, well, you're part of Young Hunger and all that setup, but you have your own stuff going on as well, don't you? For Rossisreality.
Yeah.
What about that? Sort of, where can people find you on the socials?
So Instagram is Rossisreality, same as Facebook, and then I've got a website now, rossisreality.com. So feel free to go check that out. And what else is there? LinkedIn, I think it's Ross.Gargan. Yeah. And yeah, I think that's everything.
Yeah. Anything else on the cards that's not Young Hunger related? Anything other coming up in your schedule? The people should maybe look out for?
Little bits and pieces here and there, but I really kind of want to start pushing my own content, you know what I mean? Start sharing my story a bit more, get a bit deeper into it, and I guess just share ways I kind of treat my well-being and how I kind of run everything that I'm doing at the minute and keep on top of it.
Thank you so much, Ross, for coming on.
Yes, that's been absolute pleasure.
I'll not take any more of your time up.
No, it's been brilliant.
We'll have to do this again.
Nah, definitely. Sort of a series going on or something.
Yeah, we'll get something set up. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Happy days, yes.
Really wanted to do this with you. So
brilliant.
Thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
That has been all from the official Young Hunger podcast. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.